Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we'll be talking about Shang-Chi coming out this weekend and how the projections for it have actually ticked up and whether or not it's going to live up to those expectations, and also how there have been several films, some of which I have been looking forward to, that have been pushed back to next year. And some of them have been pushed back now multiple times, and it breaks my heart because they're some of the only films that I think, for me, are worth looking forward to at all. But before going into those movies, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. Also, make sure you're subscribed. Also, with that notification turned on, that way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So let's first talk about Shang-Chi, which is bound for Labor Day weekend record with $90+ million worldwide launch. Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, is it possible for this to happen? I mean, sure, anything is theoretically possible to some extent, but is this the film that is going to be the box office record holder? Of all the films to be released over Labor Day weekend, is this going to finally be the one that cracks the Labor Day weekend conundrum? As many in the industry have always said, yeah, you don't want to put your movies out over Labor Day weekend because you think, hey, people are off from work on Monday, so therefore more money. But in the end, people are traveling, and so therefore less money is made overall. I have my doubts about this film making as much money as they think it is, specifically domestically, less so worldwide, because worldwide is always a little bit more of a difficult animal to predict. But it's interesting to hear what the range is of what they think is going to be coming from this film going forward. As it says, the Labor Day weekend box office, the last frame of summer, which studios typically shy away from, is poised for a Disney revolution as it debuts the first Asian American Marvel superhero feature, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. There it is right there. All about the identity politics. The first Asian American. It's got to succeed. If it's not, we're going to make it succeed by any means possible. Or just make good movies. Just make good movies. Why focus on anything dealing with race, gender, or any of these other peripherals that in the end don't really matter? Because all that matters is the individual. And in this case, for a movie, all that matters is the story good? Is the story entertaining? Is it going to make me want to go out and say, hey, Shang-Chi was a fun time? Or are you just literally trying to have me go, oh, this is the first Asian American on screen. This is amazing. You see how one of those sounds right and the other one sounds a little bit facetious? I don't know. It goes on to say, studios have long held the belief that no one goes to the movies over Labor Day weekend, and for that reason, why they've avoided opening movies over a 4-day holiday. However, Disney believes that's possible to open a Marvel movie anywhere on the calendar. Oh, really? Let's talk about that with maybe Black Widow and eventually the Eternals as well. And obviously this film too, because I don't think any of these films are going to make money, as even Black Widow can't make a lot of money, in fact loses money. How can any of these films with a lot less notoriety possibly be able to somehow crack the code there? But they believe they can do it even during a pandemic. NRG moviegoing comfort levels have stabilized over the last 2 weeks in the 66 to 68 range, with around 28% of all moviegoers being very comfortable. So that means that only 28% of moviegoers are incredibly comfortable going to a physical theater, where the range is somewhere between 66 and 68 who are somewhat comfortable. So we're talking here about almost a little over half of moviegoing audiences are comfortable. And yet Disney believes that in that market where half of audiences are comfortable, or a little over half of audiences are comfortable, that somehow, some way, they're going to crack the code. Now, obviously, this is because any studio of any film is going to try and prop up their movie beforehand. They want to show that they have belief in their film, and then eventually when there is potentially an underperformance here or there, then they can go back and say, well, hey, we tried. It is Labor Day after all. And that's going to be the excuse if this film doesn't do well, right? Is, okay, it's Labor Day, we tried, we thought we could crack the code, but it just turns out that we didn't quite understand just how many people are still afraid to go to the movie theater. Or, in New York, right, you have to have a passport to get into a theater these days. And we didn't realize just how many people who really wanted to see Shang-Chi weren't allowed to go see it for this reason. Again, that's just going to be the ideology. This is the first time for Disney having one of these major releases in a Marvel Cinematic Universe film, at least, where they're not going to have to be able to rely on their Disney Plus numbers, their supposed alleged Disney Plus numbers, and so it's all going to be on the box office. And so, yeah, the excuses, I'm sure, will be flying. Let's see exactly, though, what they think this film is going to make. It says, in the US and Canada, it's projected that Shang-Chi is in store for a Labor Day opening weekend record. Again, Labor Day weekend record with only a little over half of audiences actually comfortable going to a theater, and this is a theatrically exclusive film. I would really love to know the logic behind why people think this way. I assume that their logic is, well, hey, didn't you hear what we first said? It's the first feature MCU film featuring an Asian American. It's like, okay, so you're just going to pander to a certain demographic of people and say, hey, guess what? This is an Asian American, everybody. And I believe the actor is actually an Asian Canadian. But again, that I don't think really matters all that much, I guess. But it really is honestly weird to me that people think pandering to groups is somehow going to make things better or make you go see. In fact, I don't see how anyone couldn't be offended by that mentality of, hey, there's an Asian American on screen, go see it. Or, hey, I expect you to go see it. I don't know. I feel like that pandering is quite offensive. Maybe I'm off base on that. If you're an Asian American, are you offended by this fact that they just assume that you're going to go see this film because the lead actor just happens to be Asian? I don't know. I think there's something quite wrong with that type of thinking and mentality. But their opening weekend is expected, what they think, is between $45 and $50 million domestically at 4,200 plus screening theaters, which would beat the previous record holder of 2007's Halloween, which made 30.6. Again, can be very interesting to see if they get even close to that number. It says exhibition has projections much higher. However, the erratic nature of moviegoing during COVID makes forecasts shaky. The 1834 demo no doubt will show up, just like they've been turning out throughout the summer, and an over-indexing of Asian audiences in cities such as San Francisco, Seattle, Honolulu, New York, and Los Angeles is expected. So again, they are going in under the assumption that Asians will go out to see this simply because of the fact it features Asians. Again, I don't see how you cannot look at that thinking that they have and not see how that's offensive. Now, again, every person's different. Every person's going to read things a little bit differently. But that type of pandering to me just seems a little bit off there. Now, this is interesting because the last long-range box office report that we had was that the range was going to be somewhere between 35 and 55 million. So this is still within that range. Obviously, they've bumped up the minimum of what they expect, and they still have around the maximum around the same. In fact, maybe even a little bit less than that. So that means they're essentially assuming then, based off of these original estimates, that it's going to be under the maximum, meaning that the long-range estimate of the domestic is going to be what? Around $150 million at best, based on these projections, and that's just domestically. That means that this film is going to probably get, again, max 350 million worldwide, if even, and I think that's incredibly high and incredibly generous, and if that's the case, guess what? This movie flops. This movie doesn't make its money back with a projected budget somewhere between, around $200 million or so, because that's typically what they are spending on these types of movies. And as we've seen with the trailer, there are tons of CGI elements in this movie. And Lord knows that they have spent a lot of money on it. Obviously, we'll get an actual number sometime tomorrow morning once we get some Thursday numbers. Once we get those Thursday, the first premiere access numbers, right? Those are going to be kind of what indicate exactly what kind of strength this movie has. And then that gets updated throughout the weekend. The Friday to Saturday drop-off is also usually a pretty good indicator of whether or not they think the film is going to be able to kind of have the legs to get to whatever number it is that they're projecting. So again, I'll be covering this all throughout the weekend as we get more numbers. But I know that not everyone is excited about Shang-Chi, and some people just don't care at all. But again, first question I would ask for anyone is, do you think this film is going to make between $45 and $50 million this weekend? Is this going to break a Labor Day record? Again, with almost half the audiences. So every other year where you haven't had this kind of a range before, right, you've had 100% people comfortable going through a theater before. Those weren't able to break the record, but hey, Shang-Chi. And again, the only way that they can get there is by pandering, by saying they expect that Asian audiences are going to show up to this movie. And I mean, that's not to say that that's not going to happen. It's just, I think it's kind of odd just to expect that simply for the fact that it features Asian actors. Again, I don't quite understand how how they don't see that could be viewed as offensive by a lot of people. All right, let's go ahead and talk about some news that some people might care about, and I know I am very much caring about this. And the big news, of course, is Top Gun Maverick has been pushed back once again. So now this will be 2 years pushed back. It was originally supposed to come out last year. Now it's been pushed back to Memorial Day of 2022. So we're not going to get to see these amazing sequences and shots inside of these jets until Memorial Day, summer of next year. Of course, this ticks me off because this was one of the only films that I was looking forward to last year, one of the only films I was looking forward to this year. And now I guess it's one of the only films I'm looking forward to next year. Then again, a lot of films are going to be pushed back. So who knows what is actually going to be coming out next year, right? Anyway, let's go ahead and look into this. It says, after a successful launch of clips and footage at CinemaCon, Paramount is pushing its big Tom Cruise tentpole, Top Gun Maverick, to May 27th, Memorial Day weekend. You would think, oh, if it's successful, that you're going to stick to it and make some money. If you honestly think that things are going to get so much better by Memorial Day after the way that things have been going, I mean, think about it. You're going to have probably more cities trying to push on passports. You're going to have more cities locking things down. And again, we're going to be in wave, 10, 15 at that point? So to think that things are just automatically going to get so much better to the point of the film just guaranteed to make money, I don't know. I just don't really see exactly the logic there, unless, of course, they're focused on overseas. I know there's been a lot of criticism as far as how Top Gun Maverick has seemingly pandered to China with the removal of a patch that featured Taiwan on it, and that has now been taken off in this one where it was in the original instead, and so it seems to indicate that they're trying not to upset Chinese audiences. So maybe it's because of movies not doing well in China that they're doing this, and that is the case. Well, then, of course, I am the first person to call out Paramount and any studio that panders to the Chinese communists because, again, they're communists, and this is something that we should all just be working together on. Mission Impossible 7 has also been pushed back to September of 2022. And also, even the film Jackass Forever, which was supposed to come out in October, has now also been pushed back to February of 2022. So once again, films being pushed back, and it's so freaking ridiculous that we are still in this game. They don't realize that if they continue to push these films back, theaters are going to eventually have to shut down. They're not going to be able to rely on government funding and government help forever, especially with things getting back to normal in many places. So all that this is going to do is make less theaters available in the long run. It's going to continue to train audiences to stay home and not go to the theater. And then the plan of them saying, oh, but it'll be better by then, is going to be moot because any gains they may have made in the areas that they were focusing on, they would have lost in theaters. And again, people just saying, I'll wait for it to come out on Paramount Plus or any of the other streaming services. But anyway, what are your thoughts about this? Do you care about any of those films coming out? Again, Top Gun 2, Top Gun Maverick. I'm excited for it. I love the trailer for it. I can't wait to see what they're able to do inside these jets. Again, I think the cinematography for that film is going to be freaking gorgeous, but I'm tired of waiting. And I think that's the sentiment of a lot of people. It's like, I can be excited for a movie, but if you're going to keep making me wait for it, it's going to make me less excited to see it. And it's going to make me start to recognize and realize more so of what your motivations are as to why you're doing the things that you're doing. It's going to make me think more about what beforehand I just, said whatever to, which was the Taiwan patch. I said, okay, it is what it is. Now I'm more like, okay, well, now it seems very clear that this is actually an attempt to try to placate to China and to the commies over there, and I'm not okay with that. So even though the movie looks like it's going to be good, if you're placating to commies, I'm going to call you out on it. So what are your thoughts about this? And again, going back to the original news, and the main news today, Shang-Chi, $45 to $50 million. Do you think it's going to break records? I doubt it, but hey, who knows? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my September Locals, Patreon, and Subscribe Star members. First with my Locals members, Cats App, D Sharp, It's a Modern Major General Story, Laura Bifford de Hobbit, and Robert Barnes. I want to give a shout out to, especially to Laura, who is now a double supporter on Locals and on Patreon. So thank you for that. And to all of my Locals members. A shout out also to my Patreon members, Andrew Hoyle, animation commentator Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Father Christopher Miller, Hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Joe Horn, Jonathan Garney, Gomer Kyle 79, Laura the Modern Major General Story once again, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Ullen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. And a shout out also to My Subscribe Star members, they are Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, John B., Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. Thank you all very much for supporting the channel. It really does mean a lot. And if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every single video or live stream on the main channel, please check out the links in the description below, specifically that top link, which will bring you to all of the links to my various social media pages and also places of support as well. And remember that if you join at the Army of Asgard level, you also get access to giveaways of 4K titles. Right now, I have a live giveaway of Snatch on 4K Steelbook. I've also got ones for Dread, Wrath of Man Blu-ray. I've also got A Quiet Place Part 2 on 4K. I've got Top Gun on 4K, Sicario on 4K, tons of films and more to come, especially as more films are getting released for those giveaways. At the Keeper of the Bifrost level, you get all of that, plus you get access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger. Not only do you get to listen to the podcast, you also get to ask questions that we answer as much as we can and as fully as we can in a much more, I guess you could say, uncensored way, but again, a much more free-flowing way for our members over there at the Keeper of the Bifrost level above. And if you join the Chosen of Valhalla level, you get access to all of those things, plus in your first month, you get a free t-shirt, your choice, and I send it to you no matter where you are in the world. And also, you get to once a month be featured on the channel in the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where we talk about movie, news, and pretty much anything that you want to talk about. So if that all sounds like fun to you, check out those links below. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.